how to go from feeling emotional overwhelm to actually find the clarity that you might be looking for, to have the clarity on those steps that you might be wanting to take in your creative process if you are into creating the life that you desire, um, slash manifesting the life that you desire, how to get there. In this video, I'm going to explain how we can go from being feeling very emotional overwhelmed to finally get arrived to that clarity, how we can work with our emotions. I like to focus, let's say, in my videos on emotional souls, emotional people. Being an emotional person myself, um, I I have shared on my other videos that I feel like still in 2025, in society, in the society, the world we live, it feels also almost like it's a negative thing to be emotional. There's not a lot of clarity, and there's not a lot of um, we haven't normalized a world that combines both the very rational humans that are so needed and the emotional ones. You know, it's almost like the world is led by rational thinking, which is wonderful, right? We need that. And we often forget that if we didn't have the emotional, wonderful humans as we, you know, who we are, we wouldn't have art. Everyone enjoys art. We wouldn't have amazing food at wonderful restaurants. We wouldn't have fashion. We wouldn't have film. We wouldn't have all the things that are created by emotional humans. We understand if you are a creative watching, you don't have to be a creative an artist to be watching this video. You can be just an emotional person that is curious to learn how to work with your emotions. Um, we know, we understand that in order to create, to get to that um, delicious meal dish, to build a wonderful um, garments, you know, to create to materialize um, art. In that process, there's a lot of working with our sensitivity, how colors feel, how shapes feel, what is the shape that wants to be expressed through my talents, right? We understand that. And sorry that I'm making a little note here, but I just want to bring a little bit more awareness. Like, it is crazy for me to think that we go to school and we learn so many. I went to a school in Colombia, back in Colombia, for fine arts and visual design, and I learned from wonderful teachers. I feel very lucky that I went to one of the most special art schools in my city, and I was able to learn from incredible humans. Although now that I'm older and now that I spent a lot of time learning about self-development and spirituality, I can see how important and how key, how it's just like the first step that any artist, any creative might want to learn. First, understand how to work without emotions, and then from that place, create, express that creativity, allow the things that want to be expressed through us with those tools, from that place of understanding how to work with our emotions. Our emotions um, can be very intense, and where I am in my life right now, I'm arriving to a place of a lot of acceptance for my emotions, which is beautiful, and that's what I would like you. If you feel like you are at that level of emotional, I would love you to get to a place where I get to be, where I get to experience life from. Although I feel like a lot of the heaviness, intensity, I can see that it has to do with growing up in a world where we haven't had that education, where we haven't normalized that being emotional, it is very normal and very okay. And the thing is, like, I want to say it has to do also with my personal experience growing up in the family, in the context I grew up in, because I have seen, and we all have seen, artists that are extremely free, and they care very little about what people might think about how they express their emotions and the waves they ride through their lives, right? Anyways, I just wanted to leave that little note in case you are one of mine. You are one of those big feelers, creative feelers. I have a special space for all of us, and I am happy that you found this video. Hopefully this video can serve and can provide some inspiration for your process to create your own ideas, to find the ways you want to navigate life and you want to navigate your emotions. So welcome back to another video. Super excited that you are here. Let's break down that process of how we can go from emotional overwhelmed to clarity. Also, something that I want to share is that from my next video on, I'm gonna be sharing a series where each video is gonna be a step in how I feel like I've been sharing a little bit of how my process has been, but I'm a place where I'm like, no, I just want to put this out there because I know it's needed. I know a lot of, especially creative souls, are wanting to create, to believe in themselves, to live a life where there's not a lot of this overwhelm, for example, where we can feel like we can flow with life. I think I have shared already in this video, that I have spent a lot of years exploring with different techniques in self-development and spirituality. I grew up with a Zen monk dad, a very spiritual household, and I went to school for arts and design, and I just cannot wait to start putting this knowledge, these experiences out there so people can start experiencing the life that I am grateful to get to experience now. So I invite you to subscribe, so you get the notification whenever there's a new episode. I'm going to create, like a series, so there will be a playlist where you will be able to watch all the videos, and it's going to be step by step how I created the life I desire, how I became the identity, the person I always wanted to be, how I remembered the person I have always been. I can say that in English. The person I was born as. We understand that through our lives, through experiences. We start collecting layers, we start putting and building up some layers around our heart, around our authenticity. We stop being who we authentically are, just to protect ourselves. And I learned how to get rid of those layers, so I get to be the essence, the beautiful human I was born as, and you can do that too. And it's time for you, for everyone to, one little note that I would like to also share is that I think I said this already in many of my videos. I'm passionate about this. And it's the idea that thanks to the pandemic, I think the pandemic is definitely going to leave a big mark in history. It's a time where a lot of us got very passionate and we got very deep into self-development and spirituality. So that has to go somewhere. I've been collecting all the knowledge. I've been collecting all those experiences, what worked, what didn't work, and I just can't freaking wait. Forgive me, the passion. To share this with other humans that relate and resonate with my experience, with my energy, with who I am. I know there are humans out there that are searching, that are desiring to connect with ways to do this process of remembering who we are and to actually embody that because that's another big part of the process, right? In self-development, we can learn a lot of concepts and we can put a lot of information in our minds. But actually being those concepts and being those things that we learn, it's a different thing. And that's where I want to focus, because self-development books, there's tons out there. I will be more than happy to share everything from what I have learned from. But I think what I have to give and what I have to offer now, after all these many years of being curious and practicing and exploring with different things, is that what I'm going to be sharing is what I get to experience now, what I embody now, how I got to where I am. If I did it, you can do it too. So stay tuned. As I said, feel free to follow, subscribe, and you'll be notified whenever there's a new episode, a new video. For now, let's talk about this beautiful subject going from overwhelm to clarity. As I said, there will be more videos, a whole probably really video explaining step by step how to work with other emotions. But some awareness that I want to share here, probably you know this already, but for anyone that is new, that has been very overwhelmed for many years in their lives and they just don't know what to do with their emotions, the first place where we want to start, as a creative person, I like to create like a ritual I like to be very intentional, and I like to create anything that I invite, that I start, any new thing that I start in my life, I like to do it in a special way. So the first step where we can start working with our emotions, it's with a journal. These days, I love sharing on my videos that some people are into writing, some people are into talking. So these days we have many ways how we can do that process of journaling. You can record your voice in an app, or you can use, actually, I think there's something special. There's like this, there's a relationship we develop when we write, when we use our hand as a creative. I feel like there's there's even like a psychological explanation in the connection we have with our minds and when we materialize things with our hands. Maybe I'll link that, but we all are different. So I always like to suggest things and invite people to find their own version of doing things. I feel like I'm someone that gets distracted. So if I'm just using my voice with the voice notes, I can easily just forget and get into other things. But when I'm writing, it's like there's this presence that I experience. You might experience something different. So just sharing ideas. And for many years, I had a journal for emotions. The one thing that shifted how I worked with my emotions, the first thing that I noticed that because when we are new to work with our emotions, it's very easy to fill up a whole journal in 2 days talking about emotions. Some people experience big emotions. So if we don't have some kind of a structure in how we work with our emotions, easily we can get just lost in our emotions. So that's something that I want to emphasize. It's very important that we start developing a healthy relationship with our emotions, right? That we invite, and that is going to look, again, I'm sharing ideas, you find what works for you. Define what a healthy relationship means for you. Meet yourself where you are. Get inspired by others, but also meet yourself where you are, right? For me, I needed that structure. For me, I needed okay, I can feel so much, like unlimited. So how that looked like for me was, okay, expressing what is it that I'm feeling and finding a resolution. I wouldn't finish writing in my journal until I found a resolution. And that resolution, again, can be different for everyone, but some things that are very common in the self-development space, like, is this true? If this was true, then you know how I can solve it. There's always a solution. And if I'm talking to creative minds, you know what I'm talking about, right? Get creative. What can be the solution? Like the worst case scenario is that we die. It probably wouldn't be the worst case scenario, right? So there's always something we can do. Challenge yourself, and don't leave that moment, that presence of connecting with your emotions until you find that. This is something that I want to say. I've been always a very independent person. There's this big portion of independence in who I am. I like to do things by myself. I like to figure out things by myself. I have that in my energy. So that has been my main way of working with my emotions, me and a journal. But obviously, depending on where you are, as I said, meet yourself where you are. Working with a coach, I had coaches for many years, therapists, working with people. There's this saying, beautiful saying, that one of my coaches says, a healing happens when a compassionate person is witnessing, something like that. Maybe you know better what I'm trying to say. In the presence of someone compassionate, a lot can happen. And if you maybe don't have one, because I remember moments that I didn't feel like I had that person, ask for it, as universe, God, in that thing that you believe in, for that person. I think it's something beautiful we get to experience in life. The older I get, the more I'm like, God, this is one of the most beautiful things that we get to experience in life, being guided. Meeting those humans, those people in our lives that know a little more, that may be a little farther in some areas in our lives, that can lead us, that can show us, remind us the way. I'm grateful to say that I have a few of those people in my life right now, and it's just like there is priceless. Like, it's just a treasure. So those are different things. Also, depending on where you are, again, you might have a really good friend that is a very good listener. Personally, I feel like, yeah, as I said, I'm very intentional with things. With friendships, I think that depending on the relationship you have with this person, I feel like sometimes there are, especially if you're very emotional, this is my experience, you do you, when we bring a lot of these emotions to our friendships, like, we have to make sure the person, that's probably what I want to say, I'm sorry, I learned to advise, to ask the person, I'm forgetting some words in English, I'm sorry, to let the person know what I need to talk about, if they have the capacity to receive me, to create the space for me, to hold the space for me. Not everyone, not always people are available, and especially, if we're very emotional, we're very sensitive, and when we don't have that container, it can be even more irritating. It can be, it's just not gonna feel good for that. So make sure that you are searching, creating, connecting with people in spaces, environments that are going to be healthy for you, that are going to support you in those processes. So that's the first step, and already I got very excited and passionate talking about the first step. In how we can start connecting and creating that relationship with our emotions. For those that have already worked with your emotions, you have developed already a relationship with your emotions, and you are in one of those moments of a lot of overwhelm, like, God, like, this feels very, very intense. I am someone, just to share, because sometimes we don't understand where the emotions come from. I am someone, the level of sensitivity that I experience is that I also invested a lot of time in learning about astrology. So I think I manifested astrology into my life. Every big shift, transition in the sky, I feel it. Name it, like full moon, eclipse, multiple of them, right? That exist. So that's one thing that alterates my emotions, for sure. That's a layer of what I might be feeling. I'm also very sensitive to others energies and states. So something that I had to learn through the years was curating a lot my relationships, the environments and the people I'm around with, making sure they are at a level of consciousness, of lifestyles that align to who I am. Otherwise, it just doesn't support my emotional being. Like the thing with being that emotional and that sensitive, as I said, it is a freaking gift. I do believe it is a gift. I know some people just, there's a lot of content out there, making you believe that it's not a gift, that it's a trauma, and it is, who knows how many other psychological stuff that is wrong with you. And I don't believe in that stuff, especially because I got to experience that it's not that stuff. I got to work with what I'm sharing here, and it worked. It works. I do experience the peaks, the overwhelms, and then I know how to get down from there. So, but we'll get there. So it is very important that we create. And for some people, and I want to say, like, yeah, 5 years ago, when I saw myself living a life that didn't support at all my sensitivity, I was like, fucked. Like, what do I do now? I remember, just to share, maybe you are in that place. I remember being in a relationship with all the friends of this partner would say and think that I was too sensitive, like all the time. That was what I was projecting in my life. That was what I created. I think that's something very important to share. We create our reality. Our thoughts or beliefs create our reality. So taking responsibility, I'm going to go a little deeper in many of these subjects that I am touching on in this video, in the series that I'm going to be releasing. But we create a reality, and that was the reality I created at that moment in my life. I can see that I didn't love and I didn't accept myself the way I do now. And because of that resistance and rejection I had for myself, I was creating a life that was reflecting that back to me. So I had many moments, very painful moments, where it was just, all these people telling me all the time how sensitive I was and how wrong that was. Like, I have big images of those moments. And again, I'm not saying this for you to feel sorry about me. I'm just sharing this in case you have experienced something similar. You might be experiencing something similar, and just to empower you, to share, to inspire you that your life can look totally different. You can create a beautiful, loving life, a beautiful, loving reality, where your sensitivity can be actually the biggest gift and tool that you can have. But yes, we have to take responsibility. And the responsibility I had to take was actually starting to love myself, accept myself, and choosing different, from that love, understanding what was a loving relationship, what was a loving environment for me. And that has been taking me a little bit. And now, again, I get to experience that. So you can too. You can experience that too. So I went from having friendships that were just, at that level, we can say mean, saying, like, you're too sensitive. I remember, like, there's this crazy memories, Jesus. Like I was throwing tantrums all the time. And I was, probably. But that's how far I went in rejecting my emotional self, my capacity, my ability to feel. to now, gosh, I feel like the people that I've been attracted in my life is just like they're fascinating. They're just like, gosh, like how much magic, give me more of that magic that you get to create, that you experience, that you make. Yeah. You are in those moments of whoop, peak, overwhelm peak. You have a lot of anxiety. I don't like to use the word anxiety. I think when we have those sensations, it's just energy. That's my perspective. I think thinking that I have anxiety actually gives my more of that activation. Personally, I just feel like since we wake up through the day, our energy changes. So every day our energy changes. Sometimes we have more energy. If, like if you think about it, if you're a woman, we know through our cycles we have days where we have a lot of energy, some days that we don't have as much energy. So sometimes it feels like there's an accumulation, like energy is wanting to express through our bodies, like you probably relate with the idea. I think from the pandemic we learned this so much. If we are spending so much time at the house and we don't work out, probably it's going to be hard to go to sleep at night, right? So we learned that, okay, maybe I do have to work out every single day, even 20-30 minutes. The same thing happens with these energies. We have to move them, we have to let them express through our bodies. So, but there are moments that they're very active, and we did, a little workout. We did all the things that we know helps us to move them through our bodies, and it doesn't work. So, the first thing that I suggest that you do, that's what I do, is to get super curious. Super curious to understand, and we usually know, right? So I wanna be as inclusive as possible, in this video. If you already work with your emotions, probably you can tell what is activating that energy, that intensity of energy in your body. If you are new to working with all these concepts with your emotions, I don't want you to feel discouraged. Like it's a practice. And by you building that relationship with that journal, every day. I had times where I would journal in the morning, midday, and at night. Now it's only morning and night, but there are moments where we just have a lot of things going on. So once you develop that relationship, you start also developing beautiful awareness. Okay, what activated that emotion? Right? Because when we are doing that little exercise of expressing the emotion and finding the resolution for the emotion, we start just having that awareness. We start realizing, oh, what activated that, how can I change that? If you are changing that specific emotion, then the next time it happens, you know already, like, okay, I'm not going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the solution I created, the resolution. I'm going to create the resolution I created for the last time I experienced something similar. So don't feel discouraged. It takes a little time. We all are different, depending of, you know, where you are in life. It might take you a couple of months. It can take you a couple of weeks. So curiosity. When we are in those peaks of overwhelm, what created, what in my life, what area in my life is creating this activation, right? So we have areas in our life, we can say health, relationships, work, home. I think there are more that I'm forgetting, but you can start reading what are the events, major events that are happening in the different areas in your life, and start getting curious. So usually we probably have here in the self-developmental space the saying of let the trigger lead the way. When we feel triggered, emotional activated, that's an indicator that there's something wanting to, as I was saying, come up, something that wants to be released, something that our awareness, our consciousness is ready to understand, to connect with, to explore. So when we have those peaks of overwhelmed, that's what we do. We let the trigger lead the way. So you get curious with the trigger. and start showing you. So usually the triggers, if it's a person that is triggering us or a situation, they're reflecting back to us something that it hasn't been processed, something that is active in ourselves, right? So I'm thinking about in a specific example. Well, I can share what's been happening for me. A little context of what is happening for me. So you can use it as a reference of, oh, this is, how we get into those states of a peak of overwhelm, and how we can work with our emotions to shift that state, to get to a place of clarity. So I'm gonna try to be quick. If you have been following my channel, if you have been watching my videos, you probably know that I did a lot of changes. I created a lot of change this year in my life. The main theme, core essence of all those, moving from one place to another, has been achieved in identity. And that's exactly what I'm going to be sharing in the new series that I invite you to subscribe so you don't miss any of the videos. So in that process, what's happening is that we are learning how to embody the new version of ourselves, the new version that gets to experience life, as I've been saying that I get to experience, and that you can, you get to experience that as well. And we are also letting go, right? So because this is new, we just haven't experienced it. There's a lot of learning in how that feels like, like the first time we get to be, a good example for this is, for example, when we think about actors and they're rehearsing the new scenes for a film. When they first start reading the script, probably, the first couple of times, the voice and the way they express the energy of that character doesn't feel as accurate. By repetition, they fully embody that character, right? And that's a very good example. So that's a lot of what happens when we are shifting identities. At first, it's like, oh, I don't know what's happening. In my specific case, and I think it's going to be very helpful to share a few more details of what happened to me, because you probably can tell that my voice, it's a little, my throat, it's a little unwell. I'm not recording from something that I got, here in San Francisco with the change of the weather. So in that process of embodying the new version of myself, the new identity I'm creating, I'm still, parts of me are still the old identity. So parts of my old identity is that I'm an action taker. I've been raised and used, and I've been around a lot of doers. I'm not a doer. So there's a lot of parts in my personality that are just very used to that. I have to do, take action all the time. And that's one of the beautiful lessons I got, that the clarity I got from, the peak of overwhelm I got this last week. So the new identity, the new version of myself that I'm creating, doesn't do that much. So I overwhelmed myself by doing a lot, taking in so much. And the way that presents, I'm sorry, this is not sounding very clear, but in the process of allowing the new identity, that's also, it's like the combination of surrendering and taking action. So taking action in embodying, right? And I feel like I went a little far in the embodying, doing to be that new version. And I didn't do much of the surrendering, just allowing that new identity to take over, no, the identity doesn't take over. For me to just to be that identity. If you think about that, the one thing that you need to do, the only thing you need to do in that process is just being present, not doing, just being, right? So I went a little too far on doing. And what happened, sorry, I've been going in many different places. I was close to my cycle. got my cycle and my immune system went down, that's when I got sick. And it was a powerful, beautiful experience, feeling sick, because when I don't even want to say getting sick because it was just a little something, but when I was, a little weak and tender, that's when I had my peak of overwhelm in emotions. And the lesson was just so clear about surrendering. Like, I couldn't continue doing things related to work, or the actions that I was planning on taking. I just had to just be. I spent 2 days, the weather had been beautiful in San Francisco. I spent 2 days laying down on the grass at the park, and it was beautiful. And that was the download and the lesson. So that's where you can get to. I want to, like, we went so deep in my story, I want to rewind to the steps. I want to go back and make sure that you guys are getting the steps. So curiosity is what is going to take us to that clarity in what is it that we need. For me, it was that piece of surrendering, not taking as much action. I'm trying to think of different examples when we are in that peak of emotions. Sometimes for some people can be taking that little action, right? Maybe we have been, a lot of the times I feel like I'm remembering now moments where I feel a little off, and I'm like, what's happening? Like, why I'm so off? And I feel like a little bit of sadness. And I feel like I've been at that place multiple times. And then when I see it and get curious, I realize that I've been neglecting a calling. I've been wanting to take action on something. For example, when I stopped working out, sometimes I'm like, take vacations, take some time off. I don't know, I'm trying to give you examples. Or I've been having this inspiration of, let's say, painting or doing something creative, singing, for example, these days that I'm very into singing, or changing a relationship, or doing something that it comes from our heart. A lot of the times our emotions present in that way. So the action there, the process there, can be, instead of surrendering and not doing anything, can be taking that action, in committing to yourself, committing to your vision, your desires. One important piece that I don't want to forget is that in the moment we're talking about that peak of overwhelm, it is so important, and I think that's why it was so impactful for me, this experience, and why I'm so inspired to talk about what I just experienced, because I know many people might be going through a similar process, similar situation, and they might not know how to work with it. Something very important is to truly feel the emotion. Like, the message, I think, for me, in my particular experience, was surrendering, but I think it's in general what allowed me every single time to work with my emotions. It's just to surrender to the emotion. And again, like, I want to normalize it. I cried a lot. Like I'm that also someone's killing me. I cry with a lot of sentiment, and I think it is so beautiful when we touch that place, when we just open our hearts to feel it. The one thing that is very important is to not intellectualize the emotion, to not go take flight on the story of the emotion. Just in your body, feel it. You might know this already, you might have experienced this already. I think there is a beautiful saying that I have shared in some of my other videos. One of my first therapists, she said one day, and I'm translating this from Spanish, but it says almost like, our tears are boats that take us from one place to another. We always feel in a totally different state after a good massive cry. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. So surrender to the emotion, and maybe one day I will be able to explain exactly how it happens, but you will see that without you trying to think, to attach to an outcome, to find a solution, little by little things start organizing in your mind and you start having the clarity. So that's how I got to the clarity of, okay, gosh, in this process, this massive process of me, of letting go and becoming, I do need my heart, my body, especially because I got sick. I've been unwell. My body is clearly telling me to slow down, surrender, go and lay down in the grass, receive the sun in your body, and surrender to the process and don't take in too much. You're not built for that. You were raised and you have been in an environment that made you believe that, but you now are choosing what you want to believe in. So yeah, I hope there's some inspiration for you guys in this video. Yeah, our emotions is a beautiful thing, and we get to create magic. I'm creating magic, and I know you can create beautiful magic in your life too. So stay tuned, please. If you feel inspired, I cannot wait to release that new series, step by step, how you can become the person you desire to be, how you can create the life you desire as a sensitive, emotional human. And yeah, I hope to see you in my next video. Please always feel welcome to share thoughts, ideas, experiences. I love when you guys comment and leave me, some of your thoughts and what you guys are going through. I would love to learn from you. For now, thanks so much for watching. So much peace and love. Until my next video.